So, some of you wanted a slightly longer video on this. I don't think this is going to be too long, there's not much else to tell. But this is a remote control crane. This is just a kid's crane, controlled by a wire. Now, I'm going down to B-Sides Dublin Cybersecurity Conference to demonstrate some RF hacking techniques. Now, I wanted to show how to hack a real crane. Now, obviously, can't fit a real crane in there, but the principles of attacking like a simple relay work the same for a large crane. So I needed to make this not controlled by a cable, and effectively I needed to make this wirelessly controlled, and that's what I've done. So the controller looked something like this. Obviously there's a couple of joysticks in there. I've obviously taken them out. This is now empty, but this is the circuit that was in there, and all it was basically whenever you moved the toggle up or down, it depressed these tactile switches. And maybe hard to see there, swing that around, but basically what happened was if you press this one, the two wires going to the motor were positive and negative. So we'll take these two wires for sake of argument. Say I press this button, the yellow wire would be positive, the blue wire would be negative, power would be supplied, and the motor would go in one direction. But if this button is depressed instead, the blue wire goes positive and the yellow wire goes negative. So it reverses the polarity of the wires, and the motor then spins in the opposite direction. I had a couple of different ways of emulating this. This is a standard 2-channel, actually this is a 3-channel relay. Okay, so what I could have done was hooked up both the blue and yellow wire to each of the terminals in here and flip them. So have, let's say, yellow positive, blue negative on this one, and the inverse for this one. So whenever I hit one way, it's positively charged one way. When I hit the other, it goes in the other direction. That's one way of doing it. But that's messy and it requires a lot of doubling of cables. You can see I've sort of started tinkering with it here where I've got the single cable splitting off into two. But it was getting messy, and I found this instead. This is another relay very similar to this one, except it only has one set of outputs for the cables. And this relay will do it for me. So if I hit the button to supply one way, it sends out, yellow positive, blue negative. But if I hit the other one, it does blue positive, yellow negative, and makes the motor go. Current downside to this one is that this one requires 12 volts to run. This one only required like 6. And it supplies the voltage to the wires. So if this is getting 12 volts, these wires are getting 12 volts. And well, let me show you the motor and you'll see why that's not good. So I have the button here and the motor, or the crane is ready to go and powered, and if I hit the button, it is not meant to sound like that. It is getting way too much power, and the motor is spinning far too fast. You can't get this on the video, but I can tell you that if running this for a bit, you can start to smell the motor burning. So I'm going to need to drop the voltage in some way. I've got plenty of converters to drop the voltage down, or I could just put a fuck ton of resistors in line. But I need to drop the voltage going to this so that the motor doesn't burn out, because this is going to be a demo that's going to be running all day. So I need it to survive.